Basic gist is I'm going to start by going over the NCAA manual, which is going to explain what each thing is. You know, what a take is, what a ground ball is, what a shot, what's considered a goal, what's considered a save. My name is Kyle. I worked for Pittsburgh when I was in high school, and then I went to Mercyhurst College where I did stats for boys. And then I came back into town and I worked with the boys for 10 years, and then we really wanted to have an equal side for the girls, so I kind of shifted over and worked in building a girls website that could kind of marvel the boys, which is nationally indicated for a high school site. And then I've spent 3 years trying to build up the girls community into being able to have access to statistics online, scheduling, reporting, all those types of things, trying to build up the girls community. So the basic responsibilities are, we have an ethical duty to record what took place. So as a statistician, you're looking to record what actually happened, not pad stats or make them better or make girls feel good, although that's part of what you're trying to do. You have to record the events as they took place so that stats mean something, so that things have value in comparison to each other, in comparison to year, in comparison in team to team. One of the big things we say is be professional. You know, you're on the field to help with the coaching staff. You know, you're a part of the coaching staff. So purport yourself in that way. Don't scream at officials, don't yell, don't try to coach from the box. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't be excited. Somebody scores a good goal, this is great. Everybody should be happy, but remember why you're there. And we find this is bigger when I'm talking to high school kids than necessarily parents, but it's still an important thing to go because sometimes people miss that. You know, don't pad the stats, as I just said. And one of the key components is if you miss something, ask for help. You know, ask the other team's statistician, ask the girls. They all know who scored that goal, who got that draw. You know, now is the best time to figure out what that stat is versus after the game or going back to tape or trying to figure out next week who had that draw. You know, now's the time to do it. Statistician's job is to record them. The manual helps out. So the manual we're using is the NCAA Women's Lacrosse Stat Manual. It came out in, I think 11 was the first year, in response after the boys came out the previous year. It gave a firm definition, a place to look for the definition of each stat, so that there wasn't this national disparity between what some people considered to be a draw, what some people considered to be a shot. It gave a physical paper manual that demonstrated this is what this is, so that everyone could be on the same page. We've adapted most of that to the high school lessons, excluding the parts that don't really count to us, which is really only shot clock at this point, is kind of the main difference between NCAA and high school rules. So, the first section they talk about is goals. Article 1 of goals is a goal should be credited to the player who shot the ball, scoring a goal for their team. Okay? So, basically it comes down to if a goal is scored, if the ball crosses the plane of the goal, it has to be a shot, and it has to be a shot by the person who took the shot. So, it doesn't look into intent, it doesn't look into ricochets, it looks into who shot the ball, and then they get a goal. And the goal is anytime the ball crosses the plane is considered a goal, no matter how it got there. So when a defensive player or goalie makes a stop, you attribute it as an own goal, which is the defense scored on themselves. You don't give that to a specific person, but you give that as a team goal. Otherwise, you give it to the offensive player who made it happen, even if they didn't mean to. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. One of the changes that happened this year is they changed the rule from the ball has to cross the plane before the end of play or end of quarter, or end of half, to the ball has to be airborne, and where it finishes is what matters. So that is going to be a slight change this year, that if the ball is out of the cross, it will be considered a goal if it ends in the goal, which wasn't last year. A player shot who enters the goal after a ricochet should be credited to the original shooter, okay? Unless they think the ricochet was on purpose, which again is more of a college rule than a high school rule, because any contact with the ball after a shot, especially at the high school level, most veterans officials are not going to allow. They're going to say it was either an unsafe, an unsafe lapel, or whatever word they use. So, although it says ricochet should go to the original shooter, unless it's on purpose, any type of ricochet is more than likely to be called back and to be unsafe propel. So that rule, again, is going to be more applicable in the college level than at the high school level. Team goals should be credited when defensive player scores, and it should always be the last resort. You know, the book goes on to talk about if you have any way or any modicum of thought that it could be an offensive goal, that an offensive player caused the goal, can give it to the offensive player. You should only use a team goal as a last case scenario, you know, where a defenseman kicks it in, okay, there was nobody even close, or a goalie saves it and then drops it in, okay, you can't make a call there. If an offensive girl shoots it and it hits the goalie and it kind of dribbles, and maybe even the goalie kicks it a little on a dribble, give it to the offensive player. Always err on the side of the offense unless you don't have a choice. 4, goal scored on 8-meter shots should be noted specifically. One of the things that's important, especially at a coaching level, is to delineate your goals as coming from free play or 8-meter. It helps set a good pacing tone to see, are we stronger at 8 meters? Are these goals coming off set plays? Are these goals coming off free dodges? And it can be very helpful. And one of the things we track online, we do delineate. A lot of coaches don't use that factor. They just say a goal's a goal, which is fine. Our software will do it. But being able to delineate an 8-meter goal is certainly where you're heading in the college level, and can be strong and can be a very good coaching tool at the high school level. I think it's important. This also comes up in shots. Delineate shots that came off 8 meters so you can see your 8-meter percentage. You know, is the other team fouling you all the time and you've been on the line 10 times and you're only scoring 2 goals? You know, that's something you can work on in practice, work on between games. Are you 3 for 3 and they never foul? You know your girls are strong, you try to get to the line more. You know, have them go into that dodge, have them try to force that shooting space, you know, to try to get back to the line. And being able to delineate those in the stat forms when you're taking stats can really help a coach. Any goal that is scored but then nullified obviously doesn't count. You see this a lot where parents or kids want, well, I scored. Well, the refs brought it back because of unsafe propel, or the refs brought it back because of shooting space. You know, one of the changes that was at college, although I don't think it is anymore, was if you shot into a whistle, they would still count it.
It does still count.
It does still count. It doesn't count at the high school level.
No, I wish that they would go with that.
Which is, again, sometimes, especially if you're more veteran or you have a sister or you're used to club, can be different to kind of go to. They make you come back to the 8 when they stop you on that. Any goal in the game played that is forfeited still counts, but a game that isn't played at all is a 1-0 loss with an own goal as the one goal. So if you just cancel a game as a forfeit, it's 1-0, but if you forfeit halfway through, all of those stats still count to your season total. In women's lacrosse, the goalie cannot shoot. If the goalie shoots and scores, it's considered a loss of ball, and assuming the officials are on the right page, should go to the opposing goalie coming back up. So if it's an accident, which they reference in the rules in AR9, they accidentally throw it up cage and it dribbles into the goal, it's still considered a loss of ball because you can't even score by accident. This is one of the examples they give. AR rulings, there are about 10 per section. They're useful. I tried to pick out some that were meaningful to show you an example. The entire book is online, both on our site and on the NCAA site, so you can kind of see it again. AR3 says, player A1 takes a shot that deflects off a defensive player, B1, and goes into the goal. Assuming the official lets it go, that should be a goal for A1. The ricochet rule doesn't apply to the defense. Again, in the high school level, it shouldn't be anything. It should be unsafe propel, and nobody does anything. If player A1 takes a shot, the goalie makes a save and has clear possession of the ball, and the goalie causes the ball to enter in the goal, give the goal to the offensive player, unless it's drastically a defensive issue. Goalie A1 throws the ball downfield and it goes in the goal. I actually picked this one. Goalies can't score, you get a turnover. The philosophy behind assists is you want to give an assist to the player who makes a pass before a goal as part of the scoring process. So you're basically trying to look to see, did this pass lead to the goal, or was it just a pass and then the person scored on by themselves? So I tend to see this more in girls lacrosse as being a very easy delineation. A lot of times you can see, did this girl decide, I'm going to bring this to the cage and score? Or was the pass part of what led you to scoring? You know, so if the assist is part of the play, is the proximal cause to the goal, is the reason the girl had a chance to score, then she should be credited with an assist. There's no specific footstep marker, time marker, even dodging a player marker. If the assist led to getting the goal, you should get credit for the assist. Okay? So one of the ways that comes about is usually in passes. You know, you see the pass come. If the girl has decided 2 passes before that she's going to dodge in and is just waiting for this pass, she starts to move, she catches the ball, she comes around her girl and scores, that should be an assist. Even though she had that one-on-one dodge, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, it shouldn't. The pass was part of that play, which should lead to that coming through. If she takes the ball out, you know, thinks about it, steps back, takes a step, and then goes one-on-one with her girl, that's going to be an unassisted goal, even though the pass came from someone else. Okay? Assist can also only come from the last person to touch the ball before the scorer. You know, even if you think that 2 plays ago was the big play, you can't give double assists or back skip an assist. It has to come from the one before. 8 meters are never assisted because you're starting off a dead ball. Although an 8-meter pass to an inside, which technically isn't an 8-meter shot, would be a regular goal that has an assist for the person who's off the dead ball. Article 3, if player A1 passes the ball to A2 who has a one-on-one with the goalie, and just the goalie, that is still considered an assist. So a goalie is not counted as a defensible player. The goalie has an expectation to be there. However, AR4 or AR3B talks about if they go against a defenseman and complete a one-on-one dodge, then it should not be assist. There should be no assist. So the difference being the goalie is expected to be there, a defenseman is not. So no matter how many times you fake a goalie out, the goalie doesn't count as beating someone. The assist can still be valid. Player A1 has the ball on her stick and opponent B1 knocks it out. It goes into A2 stick and they shoot and score. An assist has to be meaningful. You have to mean to do it. So an accidental check isn't going to do it. Clearing the scrum isn't going to do it. It has to be, you have to mean to do this. It can't just be an accident. An assist can't just be an accident. The way a goal could just be an accident. It was an errant pass or a kicked ball or you're trying to get out of the scrum. Assists have to be, you have to mean to assist someone. Player A1 passes the ball to teammate A2 who shoots. The ball touches A3 but does not materially change the direction. Again, in high school you shouldn't be allowed to do this, but it specifically says go with the original shooter. Philosophy behind a save. Saves are often the hardest to explain, especially to new people who don't really understand what a goalie does or what a goalie means. So a save is any shot that would have been a goal if the goalie was not there. Okay? It's actually a really simple concept when you start using those words, which I think they do poorly in a lot of these manuals and when people are trying to explain one-on-one to people. If the goalie not being there would have not led to a goal, it's not a save. So when the girl catches the ball outside of the pipes, that's not a save. When it hits the pipe and bounces out, that's not a save. The girl could have been gone for both of those and neither one would have gone in. They talk specifically about a dribbling ball. If the ball is dribbling towards the goal and the goalie scoops it up, if it would have gone in, that's still a save. So even though that's not I think more people would be willing to give someone a save who catches a hard pass that would have missed than thinking on a dribble ball, but you gotta think, where's this ball heading? A goalie intercepts a pass that would not have gone into the goal while standing in the crease. This should be a ground ball and a cause turnover. So an intercepted pass, especially outside of the pipes, should be both a ground ball and a cause turnover, which is also something that I think a lot of people miss. You either get one or the other, but you should be credited with both. Interceptions, especially change possessions, should be almost always a cause turnover. Goalie makes a save but doesn't control the ball. The goalie is uncontested when she picks up the ball. You should have a save but no ground ball. So when we get to the ground ball section, they reiterate this again. You have to have a contest when you're picking up the ground ball. There has to be equal chance for both teams to pick up the ground ball. And in girls lacrosse, you have to have a change of possession in order to have a ground ball. Ground ball is recorded when the ball changes possession during live play. A shot returned to the field of play is considered a change of possession regardless of which team gains the ball. So this is the most important part that I think is very difficult and one of the things that Secondary to saves, I think, is the most misunderstood. When you're looking at a ground ball, with the exception of off a shot, it must switch team sides. And that's kind of just the biggest picture. If a ball goes out of bounds, you don't get a ground ball for just being closest. You have to be the one who physically picks it up to change possessions. I often say, if the official gives it to you, it's not a ground ball. You've got to work at it. You've got to be the one to do the work. If a player is fouled in the act of attempting to possess a ball, when their stick is in contact with the ball, they should have the ground ball. This is also a difficult rule to enforce, because at what level, when the official giving you a ball, did you have it? So it's saying if you're touching the ball when they foul you, so it's going to be empty cross coming down during a pickup. It's going to be maybe on a jump, on a draw control, although that's harder to say that you touched it when they fouled you. Maybe a pickup on a parallel cross if you're going to pick it up. I think that's a hard rule to say that they had enough of it to give them the ground ball. And again, you still have to follow the other rule of you have to be changing possession. You have to be changing sides. When a defensive player makes an interception, they should get both. Again, we touched on this with goalies. An interception is both a ground ball and a cause turnover. It does not have to touch the ground to be considered a ground ball. Any change of possession is a ground ball when it's during live play. Ground ball should be credited to the player who gains possession of the ball for her team by preventing it from going out of bounds, even if it's not contested. So if a girl races after a ball and stops it from going out of bounds, even if she doesn't have a defenseman chasing her, assuming she's on the other switching possessions, she can still have a ground ball. Article 2, player A1 has the ball checked out of her stick and the ball stays in bounds where it's picked up by team B1, it's going to be a ground ball. Where it stays in bounds where it's picked up by A2, that's not going to be a ground ball, or goes out of bounds, which is not going to be a ground ball. So rule 1 switches teams, so it's good. Rule 2 stays with the same team, so it's not a ground ball. And if it goes out of bounds to stop play, it's not a ground ball. Player A1 shoots the ball and goalie B1 makes a save but does not control the ball. Player A2 picks up the ball, shoots, and scores. Player A1 takes a shot that hits the side of the net, and the goalie or defender picks it up from the back of the net. So that's the you can't get to it rule. That's not contested, so there's no ground ball. You see that a lot with goalies too, who will throw it into the back and then walk up and go get it. You don't get a bonus ground ball for doing that. Player A1 takes a shot which goes wide and is then fielded by A2. Credit B2 with the ground ball. Same rule, a shot resets it. Draw controls and ground balls, I think draw control is next, are mutually exclusive. You do not get a ground ball if you get a draw control. It's one or the other. Draw controls are the person who ends up with the ball at the end of a draw. Okay? So it has nothing to do with the two girls who stand with their sticks back to back, like in boys. And it has nothing to do with whether the official gives it to you or you pick it up yourself, like we just talked about in ground balls. Whoever ends up with the ball in their cross gets rewarded with the draw control. Okay? So if a girl is fouled and the other team gets it, that person gets a draw control off the foul, which I think a lot of people aren't getting. Conversely, if you pick up a loose ball, whoever picks it up, anybody, not necessarily girls with the sticks back to back, they get counted for a draw control, but only a draw control and not a ground ball. The first possession of the game is considered a draw control, and every time there's a goal, with the exception of the end of the half at the end of the game, there should be a winner for a draw control. Whatever stops it, somebody picking it up or an official, there should be a draw. Okay? A foul is called before play is established. The person who's awarded the ball gets the draw control. And a draw control is awarded to the one getting the possession, not the two girls in the center. Although, from a sideline standpoint, I think that is important to keep track of the girls in the center, because it can give your coach a good idea of is the same girl always losing, is the same girl always winning. And even though it's not called a draw control, I think it has value to look at who is getting the draw control. Is it the center girl? Is it a circle girl? Is it one of the restraining line girls? Who's doing what? Okay. Ball propelled towards the cage by an offensive player shall be credited with a shot. The ball must be thrown by the stick or deflected off a stick. I think it was 3 years ago, you were allowed to kick the ball into the cage. Now you can't. You can still kick the ball to get it free of a scrum with a single, I think the wording's funny, but I think it's like a single positive motion that doesn't hit another girl's cross. But so you can still kick it, you just can't kick it into the cage. It has to come from your stick to be considered a shot, to be considered a goal. The ball that's propelled by the offensive team must be a shot, it must be a goal. A player who takes an 8-meter shot should be charged with an 8-meter shot. Okay. Cause turnovers. Cause turnovers are when a player positive and aggressive action results in a turnover by the other team. So a turnover is any time the defensive team loses the ball and does not always have a cause turnover associated with it. If your team just throws it out of bounds, if your team has failure to advance, these are turnovers, but they don't have a cause. The offensive team didn't have a positive action to take it away. However, every cause turnover should have a turnover. So if a girl checks it out of a stick, if a girl intercepts the ball, these are cause turnovers and also have a defensive counterpoint of a turnover, of a loss by the defensive girls. As such, there shouldn't be more cause turnovers than turnovers. However, there can be more turnovers where you lost the ball than cause turnovers where the offense took it. Missed shots are not turnovers, but all fails clears are turnovers. If you fail to clear, it's someone's fault, and if it's not a person's fault, it can be the whole team having a team turnover. Most of the time, you can pinpoint why did we fail this clear. It's going to be a specific, if not a specific person, then at least a specific pass. You can say, did somebody make a bad pass versus a bad catch? Maybe you can get it down to 2, but most times you. Okay, so that's the end of the NCAA stat manual. It kind of hits all the big topics. Like I said, the actual manual has more examples, but a lot of them are redundant, phrasing the same thing multiple times. But as a gist, that's shots, goals, assists, cause turnovers, and drop controls.